Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. I'd like to call to order the board meeting for the San Lorenzo Valley Water District on June 18th, 2026. And Jen, would you take roll call, please?
President Retz,
Here.
Vice President Lang, here. Director Legge,
Here.
and Director Smalley.
Here.
All right, and Director Fultz is not here.
Okay. Any changes to the closed session agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay. And I guess open to any oral communications regarding the closed session agenda from the public or any remote folks? Is there anybody hands up?
There's nobody online with their hand up.
Okay. All right. In that case, we'll adjourn to the closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. We're doing it right now.
Okay.
And Jason, you're going to join us for the first part.
Yeah, I'm gonna send this to. Oh,
I just sent it to the closed session to Bolts.
oh, you sent it to him? Okay.
Yeah. Send it to you as well.
You don't send it. Well, yeah, that's good enough. I'm just gonna do the same thing.
Is your healthy water?
It's just, yeah, water. It has some electrolytes in it.
And what do you need from me, Jen?
I needed that go to call it thingy.
Take my laptop in there.
Access code. I was gonna write it down, but yeah, I can see if you do that. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll reconvene the San Lorenzo Valley Water District board meeting after our closed session for June 18th, 2026. Guess if Jen, if you would take roll call.
Nope, we're going to be going back into closed session on reportable action.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for the reminder. We will be continuing our closed session after the public session has ended. Okay. So right. And so if you would, I think we need to take roll call again. Right?
President Retz,
Here.
Vice President Lang, here. Director Legge,
Here.
and Director Smalley is here. You just in the record. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We've counted you in.
Here.
Okay. Any changes to the public session agenda?
No change.
Any oral communications from the
Nobody with their hand up.
Okay. All right. In that case, we'll move on to new business. Top of the list is a Big Basin letter of intent discussion. You want to take it away, Jason?
That's me. So yeah, so since I started, the consolidations have been a pressing issue, namely Brackenbrae and Forest Springs. And with that in mind, I've been meeting with Senator Laird and county officials to try to come up with other funding options to bring those consolidations to pass. During those conversations, Big Basin came up a lot. And so with that in mind, the county representative reached out to district staff with an idea of exploring an opportunity to use a portion of the funds from the Department of Water Resources Small Community Drought Relief Program grant that the county had already procured for a feasibility study. And the result was the integration assessment prepared by the GEI consultant, which is in your packet. That study evaluates the technical feasibility of connecting Big Basin systems to ours. After that, the state reached out to the district, and we had a preliminary meeting with in May for interest in pursuing consolidation, along with the available funding through the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Financial Assistance under the Expedited Drinking Water Grant Program. The district provided the GEI report to the Water Board's DFA for their technical assistance funding program, but that's a starting point for them for their assessment of Big Basin. I'm also pleased to say that joining us tonight is Emma Blankenship from the state Division of Financial Assistance. She's here to explain the process that follows the submittal of the letter of intent and to answer any questions from the board or the public. And I want to state that the letter of intent itself simply expresses the district's interest and readiness to serve as a public operator. It is not a binding commitment, and any actual consolidation steps will come back to the board for formal action at a future public meeting. Staff is recommending the board receive and discuss the letter of intent, provide any feedback, and authorize the general manager to execute and transmit it to the State Water Resources Control Board. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Emma, did you want to jump in and because at least I'm pretty new to this process. I've never been through a consolidation. Would you like to just give us kind of the big picture of how this might work and what the role is that you and the organization, available funding, all of that would play?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can start by, I suppose, explaining the process in general terms, and then answering any questions that you may have. So where we are in the process, as Jason said, we did assign technical assistance for the consolidation of Big Basin with the San Lorenzo Valley Water District. In order to move forward with further stages of planning and design, we do need a letter of intent from the participating water systems in order to determine that the systems are actually interested in moving the project forward, since we have this feasibility study that has been completed to determine the feasibility of that. Technical assistance can be provided to help with the development of an engineering report based upon that feasibility study and additional planning work such as the design, environmental documents, and all these documents that would typically be required in a funding application for construction of the project. Right now, this letter of intent wouldn't be a commitment, a binding commitment, but it does show interest in the process. The technical assistance provider is Sanbel Engineering, and they would be able to take the lead on all this planning work. We would need participation from the water systems that would be involved in this consolidation, so from Big Basin and from San Lorenzo Valley, to attend monthly meetings, to provide feedback as the design progresses, and we would ultimately be working towards that construction application. We have different mechanisms to get there. So earlier it was mentioned the Expedited Drinking Water Grant, which is a pretty similar but a little bit more expedited than our traditional process. And it seems like that may be a possibility here. In order to, make that determination, we would need an engineering report and a general package, which is one of the application packages that need to be submitted. But basically, this letter of intent is a first step. Under technical assistance, once we receive that letter of intent under technical assistance, we would develop a work plan that states the scope of what Sanbel Engineering would do during the planning efforts, and that would allow us to, move things forward. So And we, wouldn't require an agreement until we have that, construction application in and the project is better defined. So we're a little ways out from that. Um, but that's kind of a long view of what the process looks like. That's not even getting into construction yet, which would happen after the construction agreement is executed. But just really focusing on the planning stages right now. So I guess I'll turn it back to you all if you have any questions about that process.
Yeah, if I may just ask a few follow-on questions on behalf of ourselves here. In your experience, how many years does this process typically take for if the end goal is full consolidation? What are we talking? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
It does definitely take a few years. I would say probably 5 years is a typical timeline to get to construction. I suppose we already have the first step, which is a feasibility study that's been completed. So that does help us in moving that forward. That would need to be further developed out into an engineering report, but I would say 5 years is a general timeline.
Okay. And aside from our willingness to participate in meetings and review engineering analyses and things like that, is there an expectation that the district would also have to participate monetarily?
Not at this time during the technical assistance. We would just need your time from certain representatives of your water system in order to participate in those meetings.
Okay. And so your answer implies that at some future point, we might be expected to contribute funds. Maybe you can just tell us how that works and what that might involve.
Just to clarify, consolidation projects, especially projects that are addressing failing water systems, are a priority of the Water Board. And under our funding policies, which are written in our intended use plan, consolidation projects are eligible for up to 100% grant funding for the construction project. Now, once we get to construction, our program is based on reimbursement. So the funding applicant would have to front the costs of construction and then receive reimbursement on either a monthly or quarterly basis. And the eligible costs would be laid out in the funding agreement.
And do you, just to get a feel for kind of the step that we're at right now, starting out, how much funds are available for sort of this next step in doing technical engineering analysis? Are we talking 50,000, a quarter million? I don't have a sense for how much is available.
For the technical assistance, well, for the technical assistance, the San Lorenzo Valley wouldn't have to worry about fronting that cost. That cost would be entirely funded through our technical assistance agreement directly with Sanbel Engineering. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. Once we get to construction, that's where the funding applicant would need to be responsible for, invoicing and reporting on the progress there and the funds spent. We have funding limits also laid out in our intended use plan. But I want to refrain from getting into the specifics of the funding limits right now because our intended use plan is subject to change on an annual basis with the new state fiscal year. So we are expecting a new one, in the near future, which could of course change those funding limits. I'm happy to lay those out, but I think at this time it's a bit too early to get into the specifics of that.
Okay, no, thank you. The reason I was asking about the technical assistance funding amount was simply to gauge how much is available at this stage to actually do engineering at the Sanbel, I guess. That's why I was asking. But
Okay.
if you can disclose that, that's great because that'll give me kind of a sense for how little or how much can actually be done. Uh,
Yeah, and we don't actually have a specific limit on the technical assistance. Of course, we would want to make sure the costs stay reasonable. There's been funds allocated to the Sandbell agreement already. I suppose for planning projects, we typically see them, 500,000. Would be a typical range for a planning project, but we haven't gotten a budget yet for this specific project.
okay, that's great. Thank you. Let me pass it on to some other directors. Mark, would you have
Sure.
questions for Emma?
Before I come back to questions with you, Emma, Bob, I will comment on the question about potential funding availability. There's a small water mutual, specifically River Grove Mutual Water System, 25 customers on the very south end of our water district. They received a grant from the state's SAFER program earlier this year for just under $100,000 to do the initial feasibility study, looking at what options they might have in order to improve their system, to what it would take to connect into our water system or to connect into Forest Lake's water system. So that's a metric right there. For 25 customers, that was, I thought, a sizable for an initial feasibility study, which they're proceeding through with right now. Emma, on the order of 4 years ago, I spent a lot of time in numerous meetings with various representatives from the state on this specific topic. Big Basin being consolidated into our water district. After about 10 months, I lobbied the rest of the board to tell our general manager, stop, because we were not getting anywhere. And this was the first thing that I was seeking, was the initial funding for the technical assessments. So what has changed then? How does the state all of a sudden have, because Big Basin wasn't in any better shape then.
I guess you're on the hot seat.
Yes.
I've only recently started getting involved with this project, so I don't know what conversations might have happened before. Our
Right.
technical assistance program has been around for definitely the past 5 years or more than that,
Right.
actually. And the priority for that time has been consolidation projects and projects addressing water systems needs when they are facing a public health threat such as primary contaminants or water shortages, things like that. Over time, our funding policies do change. So I can't really speak much on what might have happened in those past conversations and decisions.
Okay. The aspect of our staff then following through on meetings. Jason, I would anticipate in the first 6 months or a year, it's fairly limited. But at some point, it's going to ramp up the need to follow through on this. How are you gonna cover that with staff? I'm looking at the other end of the table that are already tasked out on the capital improvements program that we have existing. So concern I have is that new big shiny, it's now more of a priority because it's something new for us to, rather than replacing piping. So how?
I guess the answer to that question is my first priority is to get the CIP done for the district that we
Right.
have now. And we would ask that the state would work with our timing to accommodate that.
Okay, okay. Then I will ask Emma. I anticipate the district needing a staff person at some point for this. This is not a small project or somebody on a half-time basis to do this. Is there funding within state mechanisms if we needed to bring on a consulting project manager or somebody similar to that to supplement our staff in order to be able to focus on this consolidation?
So the staff costs for the funding applicant
Right.
that are spent on planning and design and putting together the application,
Mhm.
that is an eligible expense under the construction agreement. So it
Right.
would be some time before that is reimbursed, and that would have to be included in the cost estimate that goes into the agreement. But that could potentially be an eligible
Okay.
expense under that project.
Okay.
And I'll say that, if we do move forward with this letter of intent and technical
Mhm.
assistance, Sandbell would be doing the bulk of the work that actually goes into the application. But we definitely would need some time from San Lorenzo Valley in order to participate and provide that necessary feedback.
But the district is going to need to be working with Sandbell, assuming we go ahead with this, to provide a lot of information on our existing system and going through our records to then review something like the engineering report that we see attached to this GEI's report for is what's in there makes sense. Again, I'm concerned with staff time and availability to go do this and taking away from other. So, okay, if you're saying that, yes, we could be compensated for that. Okay.
Could I just quick follow up?
Sure.
Hi, Emma. I'm Brian. Thank you for being with us this evening. I understood that during a construction phase, district staff costs could be reimbursable, but I think we're in a planning phase first.
Mhm.
And I wonder if you might just paint a picture for how long does the planning phase last, and is there any potential for staff time reimbursement during that phase?
Yeah, that's a good distinction. And what I was referring to was the planning phase costs, that those would be eligible under the construction agreement. So it would be a few years out before that could be reimbursed. But also under the construction agreement, your cost spent on, construction management and on the project would also be reimbursable. And that should be included in the application as well. But since the agreement would have been executed by the time construction starts, then you would be able to get that reimbursed regularly rather than waiting, a few years before that could be reimbursed.
Fascinating. So by tracking time now, there could be some retroactive opportunity for reimbursement.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yes.
That's great.
So
Okay.
definitely track time spent on the project once we,
Okay.
if we do proceed with the technical assistance and furthering the
Right.
project.
Okay.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Mark.
The report that we see from GEI that follows on from the letter of intent assesses only getting a main line from the end of our system up to Big Basin. It doesn't assess any of the other systems in Big Basin. And I would expect that Sandbell to do that full-on assessment in addition to taking this GEI report to a next level of some kind of a design. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so Sandbell would assess the pipeline that's needed, and if there are any infrastructure upgrades that are necessary for the consolidation to be successful, they could also evaluate that too. And if there's any areas of the GEI report that, may need more evaluation, then we should,
Right.
bring those up and see if that should be included. Without knowing all the specifics, I can't say for sure, but I think it's
Right.
worth looking into that and talking about that while scoping out the work plan.
Okay. And Jason, you've seen their system that's up there right now, which has had deferred maintenance for the last 30 years.
That's a good way to put it, deferred maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah, deferred maintenance. Almost no maintenance for 30 years is in my perspective, from what I've seen. So a lot of pipe breaks, pump stations that are sorely out of date, water tanks that I'm willing to bet have not been maintained, and before I would be willing to commit to, okay, yes, we're going to consolidate. I want to know what all of those are going to cost to get it to an acceptable level.
I guess a way of clarifying this point, Emma, is when I read the GEI report, it struck me that what this is essentially a backup in case their well number 4 fails.
Right.
And that way we can provide them water with a 12-inch main, and so they're backed up. But it does not address the rest of the 19 miles of pipeline that Big Basin has, and what condition it's in,
Right.
Breakage, age, just everything else. So for a full consolidation, if that's really what the state is hoping to achieve at the end,
Yes.
for a full consolidation to occur is going to be a much more extensive assessment.
Yeah.
And is that part of the plan, or is really the state just looking to make sure that Big Basin will always have clean water and calling it a day at that point?
The goal with, full consolidate, the goal would be full consolidation. That's what the state prefers. When we have a failing system, to fully consolidate, have them be supplied by, another water system, and to ensure that this system is going to be successful in the long term. And also the Big Basin, to meet our definition of consolidation, Big Basin would surrender their water permit at the end of it. So if there's any, documentation of breaks or, any deficiencies noted with any of their infrastructure, that type of documentation helps us to determine if, these infrastructure upgrades are necessary in order to make this a success. I will say something like, aged pipeline won't necessarily be covered. But if there's documentation of breaks in the line and, enough that makes it, reasonable that it needs to be replaced, then we can include that in the project as well.
Can I ask a follow-up with a hypothetical? If that's okay. So for example, having sufficient water pressure and pipe sizes for firefighting. Chances are that's lacking throughout the system because other systems that we've looked at consolidating with had those lacking too. Some that were, at least by my understanding, in better shape than Big Basin, looked like they were going to cost perhaps $100,000 per connection to upgrade the facilities and system to meet kind of a basic level of care that would not put us in some liability jeopardy for taking on a community with inadequate fire flows and leak prevention and stuff like that. So that's all foreseeable here. Maybe specific to the fire flows, is that the kind of thing that would be considered a minimum standard from the state board's perspective? And then I'll circle back with related stuff later.
Yeah, we have a policy, our DWSRF policy, and one of the appendices there has information on capacity limitations. And so that lays out the fact that we can account for, when sizing infrastructure for our projects, we can account for max day demand plus fire flow that's required by the local fire department. So we would need to be able to document those requirements, but we can't account for fire flow when sizing the infrastructure.
Thank you.
Okay, that's helpful. I'm glad to hear that. And just for reference, what the GEI report outlines is 9,100 feet of pipe. So let's call it 2 miles that would be both max daily flow and fire flow capable. But they have 19 miles in total. And so maybe the sort of the question we're all wondering about is, would an assessment be made to try to figure out how much would it cost to really make that entire infrastructure fire capable? Or is it really just emphasizing that 2 miles for their backup water and that's it?
That may take more discussion just because our project components should be mainly focused on drinking water. That is the purpose of the project, is drinking water and not necessarily fire flow. But we can account for fire flow in the design. So maybe once we get into more specifics, we can, talk about how the pipeline should be sized.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Brian, did you have?
I still have some
No, go
additional
for it.
questions. Yeah. I'm aware of a per household metric. The number that I think I've heard from state is up to 80,000. I've heard 40,000 in other cases. So nominally, Big Basin is 500 plus some. So
540, yep.
What is a metric that the state typically can grant up to on a per household basis?
80,000 is typically the cap, 80,000 per connection.
Okay.
Once we get into, systems that are larger than
Right.
200 connections, and that's according to our current IUP, which
Right.
is subject to change.
Right.
Any water systems less than 200 connections, we have kind of a tiered structure, so it's not necessarily by per connection. But when it's greater than 200 connections, then we're looking at 80,000 per connection.
So it's possible we could be talking as much as 40 million? For this?
Potentially, but that's
Okay. Okay.
based on the current IUP, which is subject to change. So whatever the IUP is,
Right, I
yeah.
understand that, but here's a possible upper limit. Okay, all right. Back to the letter of intent, because I think there are two different pieces here: the letter of intent and then that GEI report. The letter of intent, I think, is simpler, at least for me. The comments that I have on that. I did want to ask for two things. It says in the letter of intent that we are very interested in this. I would be much more comfortable with we are willing to participate as a board member in that. To me, the interest, or we're very interested in, is expressing a little too much. Yes.
It's an interest in consolidation.
Yes. And part of this comes from the 10 months that I spent doing this 4 years ago, meeting with our general manager and numerous representatives of the state and the county to get nowhere on this. So that's one. And the second, for the letter of intent, I would like to see the district's consolidation policy. I know it's not important to the state, but I think it will be as part of the record to eventually for others to be seeing that also. So I think having that included as an attachment, and to other board members other than Alina, that's not available yet. The admin committee talked about it Monday of this week and recommended that it be forwarded on to staff with a few comments that we made, and then eventually to the board for approval. So I think having
Mark, what was that again? That
Consolidation policy?
a district's consolidation policy.
oh,
Yeah.
awesome. That was going to be a whole comment I was about to make.
Oh.
Right.
Wonderful.
It's something that we've
Oh, great.
Monday's
that-
agenda.
we've been
Awesome.
with where we have not been on these small mutuals coming to us, we've had nothing.
Right.
Director Foltz and I said, we gotta have this. So we beat, and then once Jason was here, we were able to work it through with him. We now have something that spells it.
Fantastic.
So yes. So I hope that that could be part of this also. So that's my comments on the letter of intent. I do have other comments on the GEI report that I've shared with Jason already. If you are okay with those comments, Jason, and following up on those, I don't need to belabor the meeting with that unless anybody on the board wants to hear those comments also on that engineering report. So,
Might have the same. So you might hear them anyways.
okay. So if you're good, I'm done with my comments for now.
Brian, why don't you continue?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, I guess I eagerly await so my big picture thing on this is having a consolidation policy would make it it would make it very helpful to organize the information that we are about to embark on collecting. For example, if our policy said things like the costs of consolidation should, in the overwhelming majority, not be borne by existing ratepayers and be borne by other parties.
Not even the majority.
It's small.
Costs are not borne by existing ratepayers, period.
Well, that would be lovely in theory. All of these costs at this very moment are being borne.
I understand that.
So,
yes.
But the overwhelmingly vast majority
Yes.
of costs
Right.
would be not borne by existing ratepayer. And so anticipating that may be what the policy says, that then leaves us with this planning phase and then a construction phase and various payers that could be the water district, but our policy would minimize that. It could be Big Basin Water Company, the commercial enterprise, which I believe still exists. Does it still exist?
I believe it does in receivership.
In receivership. It could be the customers of Big Basin Water, who for whatever reason might choose to pay. And it could be the State Water Board. Thank goodness. I'm not sure if there are other payers, but it may make sense to have our letter of intent have some framing around the cost structure that we anticipate being successful, so that as the process goes of inventorying costs, there's also some effort to begin to apportion those costs so that there's transparency for our ratepayers, for Big Basin Water Company, for Big Basin customers, for the water board, about where this is going to land. So I don't know exactly what language might help with that. Maybe if we get our policy approved, we can just staple that onto the letter of intent and send it off. But I think that that will help a lot with kind of beginning with the end in mind, that kind of idea.
Was that leading up to a question for Emma, or?
No, that was just
a comment.
grandstanding. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
I guess the question related to this is Big Basin Water Company a party to this undertaking? Have they filed a letter of intent, or is some other representative of them kind of signing on to be at the table like their receiver judge?
We haven't received a letter of intent from them, but we will also need one from them in order to move forward with this. And I can't speak for them, but there does seem to be interest there. So I think at this point, the question would be if San Lorenzo Valley Water District is also willing to express interest in this consolidation project.
Great, thank
I
you.
will say that the law firm that is representing the receiver desperately wants to be out of the water business.
And I will say the same thing. I've talked to the special receiver several times 2 years ago, and he wants out. And I think it's appropriate for the initial letter of intent to come from us. And they're going to say yay to that then.
Yeah, and they have the
They see-
authority to do that, to
Mhm.
fully
As
represent
as the
the,
receiver.
Yeah,
okay,
as the receiver, he does.
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great. I'm good. Thank you.
And just I know Alina's got a bunch of questions here for you, Emma, but what's the time frame that you would need to get an LOI from us? Is there any time frame, or is it just, I mean, if it takes us a month or two, is that okay? Or are you really under the gun here to try to get things moving?
There's not a specific time frame. The sooner the better. This technical assistance was assigned back in September, and we don't have an active work plan yet. So, if the project is going to move forward, we would like to get a work plan executed as soon as possible, so that we don't just have this, open for an unforeseeable amount of time.
So if the board here approved an LOI within a month or so, how long would you see it taking before we would actually start to see some other material, a work plan or whatever?
It would probably take a couple months in order to get a work plan initiated. Sandbell hasn't been actively working on this project so far while we have these discussions. So they would need some time in order to scope it out, in order to get together a cost estimate and schedule, and to submit that work plan for review and approval from the State Water Board. Um, I anticipate they would probably want to hold a kickoff call with everybody in order to, get everything straight and make sure that we're all on the same page with the project before they even start scoping it out. So there are still some steps that they would need to take before we have the work plan executed.
Okay, thank you. And Alina, I'm sure has a lot of questions for you.
Oh, well, maybe
Please.
more on the other thing, but I am very concerned about inheriting a failing system. And I know we talked about it a little bit before, and you said that some of the leaks and stuff like that could be covered under this. Is there going to be leak detections done on the system so we kind of understand what's going on with the pipes?
I don't know if that was initially planned. Leak detection is an eligible expense under technical assistance, and maybe it's worth discussing a little bit more if that is something that's necessary here. And the last thing we want to do is to have two systems consolidate and lead to more issues in the long run. We do want to make sure that this is successful and that it's addressing the water issues that Big Basin is facing, while also making a sustainable system in the long term, a larger system that will be able to operate effectively.
So it sounds like we can request
I think we
to have
could.
that. Yeah. As one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to probably know maintenance records.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
since we still have a staff on board who used to work for them. So,
Mm.
right,
Oh.
one, but he's
Oh, I
still
thought you
there,
were-
so.
Okay. I had a lot of questions about the GEI report. I think the biggest thing that I'm very concerned about is the backfill material. And they're talking about the slurry backfill. And I know me looking at you, Garrett, that got us in a little bit of a pickle here on 236 where we had to dig everything up and you put permeable materials in. And I think you had said that was also an issue at Quail Hollow, if I'm right. And I had a question, is that what is currently occurring in front of Bracken Bay where the risers are collapsing and you guys have filled it in? Kind of.
So on the Bracken Bray project, we backfilled with processed native spoils.
Mhm.
We did have an issue with the slurry backfill on Highway 236,
Mhm,
where Caltrans required us to remove it and put in permeable material.
mhm.
We did have an issue with slurry backfill on Quill Hollow Road where a sinkhole developed.
Mhm.
We removed the slurry and put in a permeable material there.
Okay. What's happening in that? So that's not the same issue of why those risers are creating potholes. So we updated the main line going to Brackenbury headed towards Big Basin, and there's big potholes that are forming there. But you're saying that was permeable material there?
That was processed native spoils.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just really concerned that that the county is saying that like we might be required to do this, and so
So I would expect any experience that we have, because we're the expert in this area, any experience that we have will be reflected in whatever work plan and construction documents get issued. What GEI has given us here is a very broad brush of what might happen.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't want to move forward with this and have a huge sections that all have to be dug back up again. And so that was really glaring in there when I was talking about that. Um what I had. Oh, there was, and this is just really so I understand the project better, maybe these questions, but it was talking about our 12-inch main upsizing to a 12-inch main. I thought we had agreed when we were going to Brackenbury and Forest Springs that we were just going to do the 12-inch main because in our heads that this was inevitable. Did we end up doing a smaller size going to them?
No, we did a 12-inch main.
Okay, and just the way the report read, it was that we were gonna have to upgrade that. Okay, good, good.
There is a section that's 6 inch that probably really does need to be upgraded to like 1,400
does
feet, right?
need to be.
It does need to be upgraded, but
And the report doesn't reflect that.
yeah, it doesn't reflect the cost.
Right, doesn't reflect the cost of that, but
Right.
that's,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's something that I expect will be part of the work plan that
Yep.
would be reimbursed.
And part of the technical assistance,
Yeah.
the assessment, yeah.
um, okay, this is my last question, and again, it's just more background information. It talked about temporary construction easements. What is that?
So a temporary construction easement would give us access on private property during construction,
Oh,
or Caltrans property that we don't own.
I mean, like for equipment or.
Yeah, if you want to have
Staging.
equipment, or
Staging,
if you-
yeah.
yeah, for staging.
Staging.
oh, and we've gotten those before, like for the Brackenbury and Forest Springs?
Well,
No?
we always get an easement to put our pipe in Caltrans right of way or the county right of way.
Mhm.
If we're gonna put our pipeline across private property, we would get a permanent easement. If we wanted to just have like a delivery of pipe, maybe to like the HeartMath area,
Yes, that's
that would
kind of
be
what I was
kind of
getting
more
at.
like a temporary construction easement.
Oh, okay. And we did do that during our Brackenbury and Forest Springs.
Well, typically what we tell the contractor is that they're responsible for securing a staging yard. And whether
Oh.
that's at the Brookdale Lodge or it's
Okay.
gonna be at HeartMath, or if they can get a deal at a church or someplace where they have a large parking lot.
Okay, so
The
they're
main
in
thing is that you
charge of
get an
that.
18-wheel truck that you can unload,
Okay,
and then you can take, if you're doing 5 sticks a day, then you take the 5 sticks from the yard and bring it out to the job.
okay. I guess I had one more kind of, it kind of jumped around. We did share our model with our system with them?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. It was kind of, okay. That's all I have.
Em, if you don't mind, since Alina's brought up this GEI report again, one thing that I had a question in that report was that it made it very clear that a longitudinal easement over 236, Caltrans right of way, that was effectively a big no-no. That there's a last resort, they would agree to that, but it might be several years of delay, that kind of thing. And so the alternate that the report talked about was running through on Acorn Road, I believe, which added, a few thousand feet or something. I forget exactly, but it added $2 million in costs. How would you folks assess that trade-off? I mean, would you want to, is spending that extra money to get it done sooner and not have the uncertainty of like with Caltrans, is that a reasonable trade-off or what are your thoughts?
We might have to look into that a little bit more specifically. I mean, building in Caltrans right away does definitely add delays to a project and it requires a pretty long approval process. So I can understand why they might want to change the alignment to avoid that as much as possible. Um, and we can have that maybe evaluated a little bit further once Sandbell, you know, uses that feasibility study to develop an engineering report. It's definitely something that they should address in that report. Um, I can kind of understand some of the decisions made there, though.
Okay. So as part of the process, the next steps, would, I mean, is it appropriate at some point where we as a water district would pose our questions to Sandbell and say, we would sure like to have this issue and that issue addressed in as much detail as you can give us? That's, I assume, could be part of the process?
Yeah, feedback from you all in this process would be very important. This is usually the receiving water system, so the water system that's absorbing another, usually they're the applicant for the construction project. And so this would be essentially your project. We need your feedback. This would be going into your water system, in the long term. So, during an initial kickoff call, that's where Sandbell could get that initial feedback from you all of what you're expecting, and we can kind of lay out the process a little bit more of how the technical assistance works. Probably a lot of stuff that I've said today. And then typically for these planning projects, we would have monthly meetings with all of the project partners, and that's where Sandbell can give regular updates on the progress and also at important milestones. They can go over the alternatives that they're looking at, or update on what they've determined in their evaluation and kind of get feedback on a draft report before finalizing it. And same with the designs and environmental and all those documents. So we definitely would need feedback from you all on that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe some follow-on questions?
Yes, one has been triggered. The GEI report recommends moving to the 30% engineering design level from this initial assessment for that mainline pipeline. But this report was done for the county. Do you know their status, Jason, on moving ahead with that?
Yeah, nothing's been done on it.
Okay, so nothing's been done on that. Okay, so from this point then, if the district provides this LOI and Sandbell gets involved, does GEI's work stop for now so that
GEI has already stopped.
okay, so
Yeah.
they're not doing something in
Yeah.
parallel or
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, and
So-
what I'm hoping is that the very first thing would be that Sandbell sits down with Garrett, Jesse, and myself, and we discuss what our concerns are with that system, so they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
To look for going
Okay.
in.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So, yeah, that's good. Jason, did you have a question for Emma?
No, I already got to talk to him.
You got to talk, okay. Okay, very good. Well, are any other follow-on questions from directors?
Maybe just from a comment perspective, I suggested minor revisions to the letter of intent. And yet I am not hung up on that. I see this as a productive path forward and think we should go there. If time is of the essence.
Would it be, I guess, could we put it as part of the next phase where we lay out exactly who pays for what and do that there? Or do you really want it in here? Because this is
Right,
not making the district liable for
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we want to proceed with the letter as written and just make clear that these are things we need to sort out, I am comfortable with that.
The one aspect that I'm not comfortable with is the consolidation policy, which
We don't have.
we don't have as a district yet. That I think does set things out. Alina, you've seen the consolidation policy.
Mhm.
Do you think for this LOI, just as an attachment, before we submit this LOI to the state, that consolidation policy reviewed here should be an attachment to this LOI?
I know, I wish it was just here tonight. I'm like, if
It's-
it was here
but it-
tonight, I'd be like,
Uh,
yes.
If I lived in a perfect world, I would have millions, but I don't. So this is
Yeah.
where we are now.
I know. My only hang up is saying yes, attach that is I'm worried how far out it puts us a whole nother month out. I don't know if we're
Maybe
having
more.
maybe more
Um,
yet to get it through.
Again, I was working on this 4 years ago,
Hmm.
trying to get to this point, and spent 10 months doing it. From my perspective, waiting another month, so what?
So I guess what I was trying to say is, I do think it's productive to keep things moving.
Yes,
To think that the money's been sitting there since last September, and that there's some momentum on this, I think is encouraging.
Mhm.
While attaching our policy makes sense, there's some uncertainty as to how quickly we will approve it. I would like to think that whenever that policy is introduced into the process, it would be relevant, brought into the investigation, made part of it, and inform the resulting products. So I'm comfortable approving the letter of
without that.
intent.
Okay,
And the work I do, letters of intent are not particularly
it's not binding.
binding.
Yeah,
Right, it's not-
considering it's
Yeah.
not
And,
binding.
and so hopefully, our policy would be received
Right,
as significant and worth paying attention to, regardless of whether it's attached.
And it does sound like from a timing point of view, if it takes a couple months to get the work plan put in place, by that point, we should
Sure.
have the consolidation policy and
Yeah,
So
and
can
then
be added and
and
then we
also the-
incorporate it
Right.
into the work plan.
let
I
me,
think so.
let me throw this out as a possibility. Based on what you've heard at the admin committee meeting, are you comfortable attaching that as a draft to the LOI? And let that come to the board then? Alina, you've seen it. Are you okay with that
It
attached as a draft?
As long as it says draft, yeah.
As long as
put
it's
draft on
draft,
every
yeah. I
page.
mean, I don't
put
think
draft on every page. for now.
I don't see it being a concern for the board.
Okay.
So
I
as far as
think
it,
so.
I think it's pretty straightforward
think it's
about,
gonna
and it
be-
expressed some of the things that like
Yes,
Brian
yes.
had
Okay.
said.
I'm good with that then. Yeah. If that's,
That's it.
Well,
I mean,
I don't
what
know.
do you
I guess
think?
I'm a little bit concerned about adding a document that I've never even seen, even as a draft.
I understand that.
You know,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and unless there's something in there that's really important to give to Emma and the state at this stage of the discussion. And it strikes me that it's maybe
Yeah,
not that
okay.
helpful necessarily.
I think
I
they
know it's
care.
not ideal that it didn't line up, but I
Right.
think this is just the first step.
Yes.
And as we move forward, we can say, oh, no, we can't do that because you have to refer back to our consolidation policy. And
I
so
think
as
that's fair.
farther along, I think it'll be useful.
The biggest thing I think in this policy that I'm citing is, and the district does not pay for the cost, and the ratepayers of the district, because in some of the other mutuals that we've had discussions with at the early on onsets are, oh, we've been spending 30,000 a month to do repairs to our system, and we want to get out. How soon can you take us over? With the expectation that we were the money or the bank behind this kind of stuff. And that is what I wanted to dispel. Not for the state. The state understands that. others down the line that we deal with, including the homeowners.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's-
I agree that's important. I also agree that we should not attach a draft anything to
Okay.
a
Okay.
public document.
Public consumption.
Right.
Emma, you're obviously picking up that there's, just because of a number of years of history here, we're maybe a little gun shy, but I think I also want you to understand that we are committed to exploring this process, and I think we definitely would like to take the next steps with you. How important is the wording in this draft LOI? Was that something that we created, or that?
I got that from the state.
You got that
They
from the
sent me
state.
2 templates.
Ah, okay.
There's a little bit of addition on my part about,
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll say a simple edit we probably do need to make is it shows 1,200 customers. It should be 540. 541 was the
That's- I
GEI
think-
report.
It's,
I think it's population.
that's the population.
Right,
That's
Oh, because this says
customers.
customers.
Yeah, that's not connection.
right. It's not connection.
Oh, okay. So that should read them people.
Yeah, okay, we can change
So
that.
just to make sure that it's a little accurate. Okay.
Change interest to willingness to participate in.
Well, that's
I'd
what
be
I was
much
wondering.
happier with it then.
I'm very interested.
I think playing hard to get is in our interest. And willing to participate is a little harder to get.
And the wording isn't, set
I
in
know.
stone. We have these templates available to
Right.
develop these. I mean, the letter does need to state your interest to participate in consolidation and your interest to see the project through, but if some things need to be reworded, then that's fine, especially if they're for accuracy.
Well, let me just throw out a phase to you. Instead of, because I was picking up on some of the concern here from other directors. So instead of it saying the district's interest in consolidation, if it said something like the district's interest in exploring strategic relationships with Big Basin, ranging from backup water tie-ins to possible consolidation. Is that acceptable, or is that too wishy-washy for you?
I
Something
think
like,
it would be better to state interest in full consolidation.
Yeah.
Because if it was a, emergency backup connection, that wouldn't meet our definition of consolidation and wouldn't have the same eligibility.
We're not gonna get the money,
right,
or the money isn't gonna be there for the backup water line that is in the.
because right now the GEI report is just a backup water line. That's all it is. And so,
That was the county that
Yeah,
authorized
okay.
that,
yeah, that's true. But
so that's not
yeah, it's
consolidation.
not a full consolidation
It's not, and
assessment.
the county paid for this report to try to springboard this
Yeah.
conversation from the state.
Yes,
Okay, which it
and
has
it
done.
is,
It has
it
done.
is.
Okay. Okay, so, well,
Public comment. Unless you have more.
yeah, if we're done here, let's see.
I don't know if we need to worry about
okay,
wordsmithing.
so I
since
think
it's not
we're-
mine.
Okay, so I think if the board is done discussing this, is there any public comment?
Nobody online.
No
with
hands up? No one here? Okay, then I guess I would like to move that we, let's see. Thought I had that right here.
Here.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'd like to move that the Board of Directors authorize the general manager to execute and transmit the letter of intent to the State Water Resources Control Board regarding consolidation of Big Basin Water Company into the San Lorenzo Valley Water District.
I'll second.
All right, President Russ,
Yes,
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Smalley, all
Yes.
right, motion passes.
thank you. Right. All right, thank you. Emma, thank you very much for your time. Look forward to lots of future discussion.
Thank you very much. And I suppose we can coordinate further on, I guess, timing for the letter of intent and looking forward to working with your system moving forward.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Thank
Emma.
you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So now on to another fun topic. New business is the urban water management plan.
And so this item is our 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. It's required by the state every 5 years for districts of our size. State law requires us to adopt and submit this to DWR by July 1st. And tonight's meeting serves as the required public hearing before adoption. Notice of tonight's hearing was published in the local paper and posted on the district's website, consistent with state law. And Jake Comer from Weston Associates, who prepared the district's urban water management plan, is here tonight to walk us through the process and the results. After we open the public hearing, have the presentation and take public comment and board comment, staff is recommending the board adopt the resolution and authorize submittal to DWR.
Thank
you for having me here.
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
you have to open.
You have to open.
Oh, I have to open the actual public hearing. And I know you gave me the word for that, Jason. Here we go. I hereby open the public hearing on the district's 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And Jake, would you please present to us? Thank you very much. And thank you for your patience in the previous hour.
No problem. I just need to
Okay.
find an outlet and that's fine.
Okay.
I know, just for sake of accessibility, is there a clicker I could use or?
I can give you the laptop.
If that's easier, I can tell you, but I don't.
I don't have a clicker.
For going through, you can just click through, I guess. Okay, I'll let you know. Sorry about that. Yeah, so again, my name is Jake Comer with West Associates. We have the pleasure of preparing the 2025 Urban Management Plan. We can go to the next slide here. So background on the Urban Water Management Plan, for short. It's a planning tool for water agencies. It is required by state law, and it's a good source of information for general plans, other planning documents. Our plans that we try to develop for districts like yourselves is not just checking the boxes with DWR, but to have it as a plan that's comprehensive, covers the full system, and is easily accessible by the board, by the public, and whatnot. So try to add a little more to it to make it more comprehensive. And one thing to encourage is as we go through it, section 1, there's like the breakdown of summaries for each section, as well as the lay description, and that's required for the DWR water code. And that's a helpful quick reference for those just need like 5 minutes to get caught up with it. Next slide, please. So a little history of the law for them. Started back in 1983. Biggest amendment was 2009, the SBX 77. That set up 2020 water use targets that are still relevant today, although they haven't been updated, the targets themselves, but the DWR wants to maintain that those targets are still being met. Next slide, please. And so who's required? Those with 3,000 customers or more, or 3,000 acre feet of water or more. Done every 5 years. Last one was 2020 was due July 1st, 2021. And that one, it was actually a regional with Scotts Valley Water District. So that was the biggest difference for the district's sake, was it's a separate one this time, specifically looking at San Lorenzo. But this one will be due July 1st, 2026. So we'll get into the details of that, but basically we'll work alongside the district staff to get that submitted. And yeah, next slide, please. So like I mentioned, there really hasn't been any updates. There's been 0 updates to the water code regarding the UMPs, but we like to include other relevant information, some about water loss standards, management measures, like irrigation, non-functional turf. So again, in that opening intro section 1, we include a lot of information there. And again, we want to help to better capture the system and projections, good to account for these, as well as to educate the district, the board, the general public. Next slide, please. So just a simple breakdown of the 9 sections of the again, that section 1 intro, again, service area, water sources, water use. The biggest highlight, I guess, is section 8, the contingency plan. Contingency planning, that's actually the water shortage contingency plan itself. So one key part of this is these are two going to be adopted separately as separate standalone documents. However, we've included it as section 8 because they are so interrelated. It's constantly referring to other sections, especially the reliability planning, and that's looking at projections for droughts and whatnot. So we found it best to include it under section 8. So just as to clear that up, that it's a part of them. So when you refer to it, it's one big document, but for technical purposes, it's going to be adopted separately. The reason being is, for one, it's more comprehensive. It makes more sense to have it included. I know even doing these and looking at other agencies that have it separate, it's a lot more complicated, and you still have to include it right up in the major part of the UMP, so it's almost like you're duplicating it anyway, so it makes it more sensible. As well as having the separate resolutions, it allows the district to make any changes to the water storage contingency plan without affecting the rest of the UMP. And we'll get into more details about what those contingency plans look like later, but yeah, next slide. Very good. So some UMP highlights, water service area. So there's the two systems. One difference, if anyone's familiar with the water loss audits, as well as some other state reporting, they require some reports for each of those systems. The UMPs can be combined under one section. So as we go through the values, we look at mostly the totals, and we do projections for totals, even though we account for some breakdown. But the water service area, the total population is about 25,800. You can see it broken down there. There's one major planned development, Valley Gardens, which will have approximately 200 units by 2030 to account for that increased population. And by about 2050, we see nearly 29,000 as a population. And so we included water service area maps. Had been no change in recent years, so we just included these for reference. Next slide. And similarly, we have the pressure zones, which we'll get into more details, but one thing is just showing accurate information. We also were able to come out for the kickoff meeting, so this is my second time out here now, and we're able to visit a couple of the sites, get more familiar, and we've included a bunch of different photos, which we'll get through here. But again, just some more aspects of a comprehensive plan that allows people to get familiar with the systems we're describing and whatnot. So next one. So more highlights on the supplies. It's about 7,800 service connections, 183 miles of network distribution mains, 35 main pressure zones with various pumping stations, storage reservoirs. You can see the breakdown for each system in terms of connections, and then the groundwater comes from the district's two water supplies obviously come from groundwater and surface water. Groundwater being the Santa Margarita Groundwater Basin, and then the water versions are varied throughout the region. And we looked at the supply for 2025 at 700, and then the capacities based off the wells for each system, as well as the surface water diversion there. And so again, updating some more recent photos of the facilities. We see the well number 5A, Quail Hollow, and you can go to the next one. And again, this is photos we took when we came out to visit the Kirby Water Treatment Plant. Just familiarizing yourself. So we can do this again with it goes to the write-up. Section 5 covers more detail about water quality. We look at annual water quality reports. We looked at a lot of the state, federal contamination, PHGs, MCLs that have been updated. Again, just to have a more comprehensive resource for everyone here. So recycled water, just to emphasize, there's no recycled water use here inside the district. Although there is a wastewater system for the Bear Creek estate, so very small, like 56 homes. That's the only sense where the district is overseeing wastewater. The remainder is all septic tanks. And I know the one interesting caveat, it's hard to phrase it exactly, but basically, again, there's no recycled water use within the district, but there is a facility served by Scotts Valley Water District that is physically located in the service area district, but outside the district itself. It's not being operated by the district. So that is within like the physical perimeter or whatnot of the boundary I explained it, but it's not being serviced. And right now, the district's not considering recycled water at this time. So looking at demands, about 21,000 or 2,100 acre feet, and this is including water loss. I know one thing we're revisiting these demands is realizing, I guess, the water loss audit reports are based off fiscal year. So that's kind of why, if you notice, supply demands aren't adding up right now. So we're going to revisit this particular value here. It's something that the water loss audits are able to do similar to like the to do fiscal year, calendar year. So it gets tricky sometimes of maintaining which is what. So I know that's one thing. We'll revisit that value to provide that. I just want to point that out in case anyone else catches it, just to see something I noticed there. But either way, when you subtract the water loss, it comes it's about, I think right now the water audits for the fiscal year showed about 400 or so acre feet, so then it drops it down to that value. But with that in mind, even with this higher amount, we see the current gallons per capita per day about 76, and this shows that the district is still well below the 2020 per capita target of 117 as showed for that SBX 77. And then we looked at the projections going to 2050, assuming gradual improvements of water efficiency, more stringent, water conservation laws and whatnot, and just better overall water usage and through conservation measures, state or district level. So we include a passive savings of about 0.5%. This is what we've seen across a lot of industries, especially of similar sizes. So with that, we show projected water demand is about only getting up to about 2,200 acre feet. Again, that's including water loss. And mostly it's again attributed to, minor population growth over the next 25 years with those passive savings as well. Some more up so now we're going to the water shortage contingency plan. So the main key of this is there's these shortage levels, shortage stages. So the state back in 2020 kind of created their own 6 levels that they asked every agency to either transition to those 6 levels or show a crosswalk, which in this case the district has done. So the district has these 5 stages, which are equivalent to the states up until stage 4, whereas you can see the 2 arrows split. So stage 4 of the district's response, or stage 4, is correlated to also 4 and 5. So the percent is 30 to 50%, where the water in the states is up to 40, then up to 50. So it's those 2. And then 5 is the same as 6. So what these stages mean, they're basically the percentages of supply. So for the state, in their minds, looking at like the average supplies available, mostly like their state-owned water reservoirs and from input from other various agencies throughout the state, they look at that percent. And if you're familiar, back in 2021, the most recent drought, the governor signed a law where stage 2 was enacted across the board. So that was, they showed, okay, we need to reduce by 20%. So every agency had to enact stage 2. And with that, there's response action, whether it be reduced irrigation on the customer's side or increased supply on the district side. And so there's various actions. Those are all included in section 8 of the contingency plan. And yeah, the district's now required to implement each action for each stage, and they can be identified in early stages as well. So sometimes, if you, for instance, with the level 2, the district can also enact level 1, and they get more and more stringent as the levels go on. Again, you got to visit the Fall Creek Fish Ladder. It was great experience getting out there, and this is also a particular example of uses of the contingency plan. For instance, with this being like an older facility, if it needs to be temporary down for construction or whatnot, that you can enact the contingency plan to alleviate supply or usage during that time. Obviously, usually if there's like also less rainfall and the flows aren't meeting standards of the extreme drought, the district itself could also implement the water shortage contingency plan. You don't always have to wait on the state to do so. So something we like to encourage, that we have this comprehensive plan that you can utilize when necessary. Showed again the reservoirs, so possible ways obviously to save water during those conditions and implement actions related to that as well. So yeah, in conclusion, water supply capacities through groundwater and surface water are sufficient to meet demands even under drought conditions through 2050. And the majority of the analysis for that projections is done in section 7, the reliability analysis for reference there. In the time up to 2050, district will most likely be looking at additional wells, maybe not specifically additional surface water, but including more additional groundwater wells will help supply capacity overall. I know there's continued recovery projects, so encouraging district to continue to do so since the 2020 CZU lightning complex fire. Rebuilding infrastructure. I know some pipelines are being rebuilt. Some of them are still held off right now. And so I know we include right up on the fire itself and the district's process of remediation in them as well. Again, it's encouraging the water contingency plan as something to be used. And again, with it being standalone, if there's a moment where it's enacted and things aren't sufficient, that the district itself can update that for times there. And I know outside of the state, sending it, like I mentioned, the district, like the board here can meet, convene, hey, we're having supply storage. We do enact stage 3. That's another way of them doing so as well. So on to the next one. And so next step. So as I mentioned, there's gonna be 2 board resolutions, one for the another for the contingency plan. After that, within 30 days of adoption, we'll help the district staff submit this to DWR. They have an online portal for all the audits, all the all their documentation. Providing CD copies to the State Library County, and then also putting that publicly available, which is most likely the district's website. Next slide, please. And then, yeah, that's a presentation, and now I could open up to questions.
Right. Thank you. Thank you much, Jake. In your experience, does the DWR often come back with questions and follow up and have problems with submittals?
Yeah, usually there's like 4 to 5 comments. Nothing major. Sometimes particular about sometimes just data specifics, or sometimes just verbiage in general. But I've never had more than 5. Some of them go without any at all. And so usually there's an errata that's submitted. So some agencies, if you look at their online it'll actually be like an errata. It starts with like which ones were changed.
Did we get any comments on the 2021?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm not aware that we did.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I know, because usually again when we get the latest at the very top it says errata and like what those. So I don't believe so. But then I can double check. But yeah.
Okay. And then just for my own understanding, if the state said we're going to stage 2, but locally in the valley here we're fine, do we still have to go stage 2, or how does that work?
Yes, so you still have to go to stage 2. I know I believe that was the case back in 2021.
It was.
Yeah.
Right.
It
Yeah,
was.
I think that even around where I'm from too, our town, same thing. We're looking fine, but it's just, and so that's where we want this to be a standalone document, so that if the state is like putting up the red flag saying, hey, we're in stage 2, that your actions you're required to take aren't as severe as you may think or whatnot. And so that's where it kind of, you want to be able to adjust actions. But it seems like they worked out fine. But yeah, once the state kind of says it, you have to kind of go with that.
Yeah, so if we have stage 1 through 5 actions associated with dropping our usage, I guess, by up to 50%, we would still have to implement that even though we're locally doing fine with our water supply.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, which I has to be a really extreme situation, because even the last drought for 2021 was pretty severe. I know we worked with the city of Ukiah, and there's a picture of like the governor of the Lake Mendocino there, where he's standing at the bottom. So I know that was very severe, and that was only level 2.
Right.
So if we get to a level 5, that would be
pretty drastic.
impressive if the district would be completely alone, and yeah, it would be very catastrophic at that point. It'd be a lot of issues, and that's where again, if you find during these times that some of the actions were maybe too much or maybe too less, that is a standalone document to be adopted and whatnot. But yeah.
And then through the groundwater agency that we are also participating in, we already have standards, of course, for if too much is being drawn or whatever, we then have to reduce our surface water intake, that kind of stuff. Is there any coordination between those limits and the or are they really kind of independent?
Yeah, they're more independent. I know, like with like the wholesalers, they also have these plans. They have DC plans that they enact, and so, like for wholesalers' sake, theirs is usually either increased fees for retailers or somehow reducing water usage and whatnot. But in your case, with particular like the groundwater basins that are, either adjudicated or run by multiple agencies, it is somewhat separate, like through Sigma, right?
Yeah,
It's
right.
It's separate, I would say. I know like actions can be correlated, like you might do something to, reducing water for groundwater usage. It could be used in by Sigma standards and also like contingency plans, so they could kind of overlap.
Okay, I was just curious if they were actually, set up to be coordinated, but it sounds like they're
No,
really
yeah,
independent.
I
and-
think they're.
Yeah, okay.
But I know we cover more of the Sigma and the groundwater basin as well, and more of that. But yeah, I'd say they're
Okay, now thank
they're
you.
separate.
Let me open it up to some other directors. Alina, do you have any questions?
Yeah, this is maybe more for staff. I just feel like the memo could have explained a little bit more about where the contingency plan was. It looked like a copy paste error to me that the same document got linked twice instead of saying in section 8. We had a heavy agenda this evening, and that did definitely cause some confusion for me. Um, and I appreciate your presentation, and it came off as a lot very knowledgeable. I would say when I was reviewing the document, I definitely had significant concerns about the quality of work on the document, just because there was a number of basic errors that I found that I feel like should have been caught before we got to this process. I had submitted a lot of them to Jason, and we did get another draft that didn't have some of the things that I caught. So I'm not going to go one by one. And I think he submitted some of them. There is, I just sent for everyone else's kind of discussion on our populations, though. I think page 79, it was talking about our disenfranchised community up here, and I think it took a percentage of like, well, this is how many people are up here, and this is how many disenfranchised, or lower population. And then they're like, so this is the percentage that's up here. But we tend to be people move up here because the housing is cheaper. All of our schools are Title I up here. So I don't really know if that is an accurate way to calculate that number. So I definitely had concerns with that. And I also would just like to point out something that I hear a lot from our fire chiefs around here is that our emergency call volumes up in unincorporated Santa Cruz County, they often they skew a lot higher than our official resident counts. And so that census data that we're pulling from might not be as accurate as we think about it. And as we're planning for the future, I think that's really something it's important that we look at. I have a couple more like organizational things that I didn't send to you, Jason. It was like table 8.9 had just like a formatting black line instead of being white like everything else was. Also the district it talks about the organizational chart in there, and that link goes nowhere. And it's also dated 2019, and we have recently updated our organizational chart. So I don't know if that actually reflects our current standing there. And then they're also on page 136, there's two bullets that look like they reflect an outdated numbering system. There's like a 15.1722 and then a 15.1723. And it's like in the header. And I don't know if that was supposed to be there. So, but I did send a bunch of other edits, and I think some of those, or maybe I did for this one. This might be nitpicky, but it does talk about chemical spills into nearby canals. Maybe that's to say creeks, because we don't have canals around here. And then you also said groundwater spreading grounds, which I guess you're talking about perk ponds. We don't have any perk ponds.
I sent him a correction of creeks and a watershed.
Oh, okay. Perfect. And I think as I was saying, and maybe you can explain this one. I sent it to you, Jason, but it talked about the average normal year of our water supply being from 1970 to 2020, and then you were averaging that number. but then you're also saying that a single dry year was 1977 and then multiple dry years are 1987 to 1994, but all of those dry years fall within those normal years. So can you explain how that is? Or
Yeah, I know for the dry analysis, those percentages, that was done in 2020. So I was just looking over those two a little bit ago, but basically those were determined, which I know I pulled up here on my end. What that guy looked like. But yeah, basically those percentages should be the average was 1962. Let me get to that one.
it's just mainly because the dry years are in that total number of average. And I guess I was confused.
2020.
Wouldn't dry and wet years be averaged together?
So-
I'm not sure. I'm
But they're
following.
saying it's a normal year
Uh-huh.
and they're using all those years, but they're saying that a dry year is 1977. So would you average the dry year in
Oh,
with
so
the normal years?
It's 100% average normal year. So basically, and again, that analysis we carried over from the 2020 up and determining the normal single dry year, multiple dry years, which they looked at the 100% of supply during that time frame. So I think I'll double check. I think we just might have missed the year itself. I know in our calculations we had it carried over to reflect that, like how single dryer mentions. Yeah, I believe that we took the average normal year within that one. So within that range, that's what they looked at. I believe there's a specific year similar to the single dryer we included 1977. Yeah, and similarly, so I believe it should show the specific year, which I can get that for you guys.
Okay. Yeah, and then I guess just like a general comment, a lot of it kind of felt copy pasted. I mean, I was looking like at like figure 7.4, we're looking at reservoirs that aren't even near us. And maybe we should be looking at Loch Lomond or maybe Lexington, something a little bit closer instead of, talking about Orville. There's a whole section talking about the Central Valley, which, if we're going to be talking about agriculture and how that affects us, maybe we can be pulling from Watsonville, who we have a bunch of ag out there. And so I just felt like overall the plan wasn't necessarily totally tailored to our area. Yeah.
Yeah, and looking up, so 2020 up, it just said base year 1970, 2020. So that's something like again, like some of the copy and paste is because things haven't changed, right? So like the targets I mentioned, like we're not doing a full new analysis, determining new targets per DB code, what was done before is set. So for example, like for that, and similar to this analysis, they didn't include a specific year. Oh, okay. So in here they mentioned, it's not very clear, but I think 100% of the volume available. Yeah, it's not very, let's see. It's saying average year between there. But I'll go through and double check on the 2020 basically just showed that time frame as being the average. I think that was the average supply in that area. So like when you're looking at the analysis, that's your like 100%. That's what is expected. So it's not necessarily 1 year, it's the average of that amount is to be 100% of the years. So other years, like 1977 shows like a 42% decrease. Multiple dry years shows 71% decrease. So when you're looking at the calculations, like the percent, it's 100% normally here for those. But to answer your question about the general, I know we do like to include regional and state updates. Again, it might not be specific, but I think again in terms of this being like with the water transportation plan, right? The state says you're on level 2. Actually, it's something that the district, even though you might be completely fine on your own, has to enact. But again, we could tailor this according to what the district sees fit. So some of those general ones or regional ones, if you think they're too outside of the district's purview, then we could subtract that from there. But I think we also just wanted to provide that option, that text there that basically shows you what is going on outside as well. Because especially in terms of water, what goes on elsewhere is sometimes impactful with this. But I do hear you as well as possibly adding more verbiage about more specifics, like analyzing local surface water sources as well to further extents. I know we try to reference different documents we could pull from here and there. I know we got into more sigma specifically related to the basin, right? That we're utilizing, but there's not too many, I think, separate documents about specific diversions and whatnot and full analysis. So we try to show, especially in terms of section 9.7, the gist of that is to show droughts. And so, like an example of that is, like I mentioned, Lake Mendocino, how we showed images recently of like Lake Oroville. So it's more of a thing to help the reader to understand like why the state is doing these and like why this is even required there. But again, we could tailor it.
I hear
whatever
that.
needs.
Yeah. We have so many very local reservoirs that I feel that you could have got maybe some aerials of those that make more sense to us as a district,
Yeah,
but
that was-
that's all. But anyways, yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Alina. Brian, any questions for Jake?
I do not have comments on the document. I reviewed it very briefly and understand its purpose. It's good to have an inventory of this information.
Okay, thank you.
Containing our costs and further revisions is important. Hopefully, the fixing the issues identified is under an existing contract because those issues should be addressed.
Before submittal.
Before submittal.
Yeah.
And that's something too we mentioned, but we have to before July 1st. So any of these, please feel free to send it. We'll take care of it. We'll address these. We can do so before July 1st. Okay.
Yeah, so you got 12 days, huh?
Yeah.
They took care of a lot because some of them that we got the other revised draft and a lot of it, like
And a lot
the
got
Los
taken care of.
Angeles County was fixed. So
Okay.
you're not in Los Angeles County.
Yeah. Mark, any
Yes. Along with Alina, I submitted a couple of changes that I see in the revised did get changed. So thank you for that. A few comments or questions that I do have. A comment on page 29 of the plan where you show the climate data. I view this as a 5-year plan update,
Right.
but you're showing me monthly rainfall totals for 2025.
Oh, right.
That to me is in a 5-year update fairly irrelevant. If you were showing me what the rainfall annual totals were for 21, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
that to me I think would be more significant. I'm not saying change this report, but for future. On page 64, we talk about water consumption over the last 5 years on an annual basis. And I note that 2025 was up 17% over 300 acre feet from what it was the previous 4 years. Jason,
that doesn't sound right.
well, looking at the data, it was in two different places.
Yeah, and we went and looked after you sent the comment. We went and looked, and the higher number is accurate. I mean, you see that the water loss jumped 266 acre feet for that year
For 25.
for 25.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was better
Okay.
accounting on
That's
actual water loss or
that's a different conversation then for the engineering committee that I do want to follow up on then for later in conjunction with the annual water loss audit. So, okay, good. On page 68, it references some water loss standard regulations and presents information and are we okay? Are we doing well or are we not? Because I was confused by the discussion on that water loss audit on page 68. So are we good, Jake, or are we just simply?
I know kind of, I think in line with the audit. So I think that was tricky again, where I mentioned during my presentation how utilizing the water audits is more credible source because there's a validated.
Right.
They're UNEPA certified validator.
Right.
I myself am a validator. I've done 50 of these separately.
Right.
So it comes with the interview process with the district, the staff itself, and shows that validity.
Right.
But it sometimes, like, I think looking at that, the values in there somewhat look different than what we have shown. And again, the audits were fiscal year, so it's a little bit tricky.
Right.
But so I think reevaluating the audits itself could show where the district's currently at in a better frame.
But
And also you can the water standard is based off 2017, 2020.
Right.
So it might be worthwhile for like the district to revisit those and ensure the accuracy.
But as compared, you point out these upcoming 2028 standards and regulations. Are we okay at this point, or are we not okay? Simply thumbs up, thumbs down. Simply that.
Right. So I know, like, the last paragraph of that, it's page 69, the last paragraph, it starts in 68, district's baseline real loss, 51.5 gallons per service connections per day. Real loss is, so we basically need to drop 53%.
So again, are we okay or are we not okay?
Well,
Just that compared to the regulations.
So if the regulation was to be in effect today,
Yeah, if it was in effect today.
then you guys.
Not okay.
Not okay.
Okay, so we're not okay. So yes, we do need to focus on
Yes,
this.
but-
Okay, that's and then one last question, and this is for staff. Page 69 refers to an urban water use compliance summary report. Which we didn't submit for 2025.
We didn't do it for 2024 either, so there you go.
So why not? Staff,
Um,
you weren't here for 24.
no,
You were here for part of
Yeah.
25. So staff,
I received a phone call from the state asking why we didn't do the urban water
Yes.
use objective report, and I said, I don't know. Who did it last year? They
Mhm.
said you didn't submit one for last year,
okay,
so I don't know.
Okay.
This is the second year of that report,
right,
so we have never submitted one.
okay.
So we're working on
Okay.
doing it right now.
Are we gonna submit one for 2025?
Yes,
Are we then gonna be able to submit one for 2026?
yes.
Okay, good. Good, okay. So, can't explain that lapse. Okay, I understand. Okay, those are my questions.
Do I do one follow-up?
Sure, go for it.
I just found it as you were talking. Figure 6.3 is titled California's 2020 Water Conservation Goals, and it's a picture of a house. Found.
Oh, well, yeah, that's supposed to be representative.
Huh?
That's like representative conservation and their goals,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
right?
the,
Should have
Oh,
shown
no,
like.
sorry,
Well,
okay,
it's-
okay, that might be near, because the next one's held up.
Okay, yeah.
right.
It's like
You
a little
said
fountain
figure
there.
6.
Yeah, it's like there's a flag and a fence. and
Maybe a
fountain.
better picture,
Yeah.
more appropriate.
I
The
don't-
title itself is the title of the next figure, which is the California 2020 goals.
Oh,
So that
Makes
title
it
is
better.
just supposed to be an example of conservation efforts.
The conservation
Is a
goals, that
flag?
yard.
and
No, it's
native
showing
plants?
native plant jobs.
Oh, okay.
The rainfield, yeah.
Near escape yard.
Oh,
So the title is incorrect. The picture is
okay.
misplaced. Sorry. Yeah.
I just felt like it should be the goals
Something.
listed or something.
The goals is the next. If you look at the next figure, it shows you
Okay.
the goals. That's
Okay.
what- yeah. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
it's the whole next page, yeah.
The whole next page is the full.
Mhm.
The
It's a map.
yes.
Okay.
If you look at the legend in the bottom left corner,
Mm-hmm.
so statewide goals, so the baseline for each region is that first value. The targets is the third, and those are basically used to develop those 2020 targets. And the full breakdown of that whole process is to go to section 6.8. Actually, well, this is already included in it, but basically 6.82 on shows you like the full breakdown of that.
Okay. The picture might not be necessary, but okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's good. Any other comments from directors? And I'm okay with the reports. Appreciate all the detailed questions here. Should we ask, there's,
Yes.
yes, any comments from remote viewers, Scott?
Nobody has their hand up,
No hands up?
but I did hear somebody say something.
Yeah.
That was Thomas.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh,
Yeah, just making sure we open public comment, but you guys got it.
okay. All right. Very good.
Oh.
Okay. He's with White.
Thomas, so you're with White Brenner.
That's
I
what
was
said.
like-
Is it-
I know,
All right.
like, Gabe?
I am. I'm filling in for Gage tonight.
Oh,
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
okay.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, then I think we would like to entertain a motion here, right?
I'll move.
Oh, no,
it.
we have to do
Yeah,
the,
you have to close.
we have to do the
Yeah, close the public
close the
hearing.
public, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And are there any other board members who would like to comment after the no public comment? Okay. Okay, so seeing no further comments, I hereby close the public hearing on the district's 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. So we're closed, and I move that the Board of Directors adopt resolution adopting the San Lorenzo Valley Water District's 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and 2025 Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and authorizing the general manager to submit the adopted plans to the California Department of Water Resources.
I'll second that.
Okay. President Russ,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Already voted. Is that with the edits?
With the edit.
Yes, I would like to make a friendly amendment and include that
in the
in
motion.
the motion, yes,
Yeah.
with amendments
With
as
amendments as
commented
stated.
on as necessary from board members this evening.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
We got it.
All right. There's it on me.
Okay,
It
we'll
is
start
in
again.
person. Yeah.
President Russ,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Smalley.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You'll be getting emails from me.
All right, the next new business is Public Records Act policy.
That would be me.
Okay.
So, I had included a link in here to the District Transparency Certificate of Excellence, which is kind of where this started from. But the district, we do currently respond to public records requests. We just don't have a formally adopted and comprehensive policy. There have been some recent updates to the Public Records Act policy as well in 2025, which we wanted to make sure were included as well. And we've listed some of the key elements as to why this policy is important for legal compliance and transparency, having more standardized procedures, risk management protection, training and internal controls, proactive transparency, and having electronic records and modern, more modern communication. The administration committee did review this back on May 18th and voted unanimously to recommend approval to the board. The version you have in front of you does include some of the edits that the admin committee had for us. So at this point, we're just bringing it here and see if you have any questions.
All right. Since you're part of the admin committee, Director Smalley, would you have any comments on this?
I do. The admin committee had a good discussion on the policy. And I appreciated the comments from all of the committee members on this and like what we have in front of us. So thank you. Getting this to the point that it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, Director Largay?
I have no opinion on this. I hope that it is efficient and defer to the experts in the room who are not me.
All right, I think the only thing that I have, since I'm also on the admin and are to review this, is just, do we have a master list of when these policies are become due to review? So we know like, oh, this one's an even year, an odd year, and so we don't have to like go look up each policy and there's just something we quick check, like, oh, this is a 0 year, this is what we're gonna work on this
I'm
year?
currently working on combining our policies into one. And so my whole plan on doing that is to come up with some kind of a schedule or a metric as to when those need to be brought to the board.
Okay,
Okay, good.
perfect. And our chair is back. Everyone has made comment. You would be the last one.
Okay. I am fine with the document in motion as described here, so I'm okay. So if all the directors have commented, anybody online with their hands up?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Elena. And does someone would like to make a motion to approve?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt the Public Records Act policy to formalize district procedures and assure compliance with California law and applicable risk management best practices.
I'll second that.
All right. President Ress,
Yes.
Vice President Lang,
Yes.
Director Laurier,
Yes.
Director Smalley.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next order of new business is the grant reimbursement policy.
And that one's mine.
That's you. Okay, great.
This is the federal grant reimbursement reconciliation and cash management policy. So district receives grants based and they're on a reimbursement basis. There's two ways that we can get reimbursed. We can incur all of the costs and complete the project and get the full reimbursement, or we can draw down on the funds. So when we incur a cost, we then draw down. But in order to do that, we do need a formal policy. So that's what this is. It did go to the admin committee and we made some edits, and then it was sent to legal and they made some edits. And so now it's ready for you.
Any surprises in the policy or the act? I mean, nothing jumped out at you?
No.
Okay. All right. Mark, any comments?
Being on the admin committee, I've seen this already. I appreciate the edits that have been made to it. This will allow us to get money as we spend money. Yay. Improves our overall cash flows. Yay. So, yes,
Oh.
thank you for following and getting this to the point of and who surfaced this that, oh, we should be doing this.
That was actually Jen. She
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thumbs up.
Thank you. Right.
How did you come across that? I'm curious.
Yeah.
I actually have been attending some grant trainings and that was brought up in one of the grant trainings.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, we don't have that. And so I asked Sheree if she was familiar with it, and she was, and so that's where it came from.
Okay. The benefit of going out to one of these seminars. Wow. Good. Yeah.
Very good.
Right.
That's great. All right. So you, all right.
That's it. for my
That's it. And Brian, you have any? comments?
I have very little expertise or on this. I guess the only thing that was a little interesting is that certain organizations I've worked with choose to invoice monthly, some invoice quarterly, so that they spend less time prepping packets of reimbursement requests. This, I think, has us doing it every month or 2 months, 30 or 60 days, depending.
Right.
And I was wondering how you chose. I guess the monthly would be the minimum, but waiting quarterly seemed too long. But I guess this gives you discretion based on that work burden and how much money we're going to get.
Right, exactly. Quarterly, I think, is just too long when we're talking about the big projects that we currently are working on and trying to get reimbursement for. Maybe in future versions we could change it to quarterly, but I think right now the 30 to 60 days would work for us.
Yeah, great. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Alina.
We talked about this at the
Yeah, at the
admin
admin.
committee, so I'm all good. Thank you for you guys' work on all of these policies. It's really
Yeah,
great.
no, this sounds fabulous. Does this impact all of our grants or or what subset?
This is more for the federal grants
Federal,
that we're getting reimbursed for.
okay,
It does have the procedures that we would typically follow for any other grant. But this specific policy is for the federal reimbursement grants.
and where they expect in the grant that we've also contributed some amount. Is the monthly or bi-monthly reporting, is it, do we have to also show then our contribution as well, or?
I believe that's kind of up to what grant we're in. Grants vary
All over the
so
place?
vastly, yeah. So it really just depends on the grant itself
Okay,
as far as the reporting requirements.
Some of them don't require it, some of them do. We track it internally regardless.
all right, very good.
I did have some comments, sorry.
All right, a comment here.
Yeah, I did. I just formatting, I guess I could send it to you offline, but it says page 94, the F indent is off. And then I think 94 to 95, I marked the 6E and F. I think there was something wrong there. Yeah, and it says 96. I said some formatting errors. So just formatting. Sorry, I just didn't realize I noted those. So anyways, that's it.
Okay, well, sounds good. What's not to like about that? Anyway, thank you, Jen and Sherry, for getting this done. No other comments from board directors? Anybody online?
No, sir.
No one online, okay. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that the board approves the federal grant reimbursement reconciliation and cash management policy.
Second.
All right, President Russ,
Yes,
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Smalley.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
very good. All right. Moving on to the next item of new business, conjunctive use consulting contracts.
Yeah, I'll be taking this one.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. So this item is essentially to provide a brief project update on conjunctive use, and then also provide a proposed contract for preparing the conjunctive use plan with Mike. So the basic objectives of conjunctive use are to reduce our groundwater usage, to help our groundwater basin recover from being overdrafted, while not impacting dry season stream flows in our surface on the streams that we take surface water from. And so to this end, we completed a water availability assessment and fisheries resource considerations report in 2019, and a conjunctive use plan and initial study mitigated negative declaration in 2021. This was all done under a grant from the county, which was meant to push this effort forward. However, the ISMND, which is the California Environmental Quality Act document, receives substantive comment letters from multiple entities, the City of Santa Cruz, the National Marine Fisheries Service, and CDFW. There are a few others as well, but less substantive. And due to this, we decided to pursue an environmental impact report, which is the next level of review up from the ISMND. And it is a more defensible document, I'll say legally. And so any challenger to that document would have to, there's a higher level or burden of proof on them. And so it is a stronger document, is how I'll phrase it. And we signed a contract with Rincon in 2022 to provide that EIR for us. That contract has since expired, and we didn't
Meaning nothing happened.
We spent a little bit of money with them, just kind of, I think getting the project description was probably where that money was spent, which is the basis of which they would do the review from. But we didn't really pursue it in earnest. I think largely because we were waiting on Loch Lomond water. We were going to incorporate that into the project. And, discussions were happening off and on. But this year, we ultimately decided to proceed without including that Loch Lomond water because it had dragged on so long without progress. Well, there was some progress, but just without any real solid outcome. So we're deciding to move forward with conjunctive use without Loch Lomond water included. And so we requested proposals to essentially update the two documents, the water availability assessment and the conjunctive use plan. And then we've also had discussions with Rincon about actually pursuing that EIR process. And that is essentially the order that we would be preparing the conjunctive use reports in, is updating the water availability assessment, updating the conjunctive use plan, and then updating the EIR. The conjunctive use plan and the EIR, there can be some kind of crossover in terms of their preparation timelines, but the water availability assessment is really the first piece that needs to come to kick this all off. However, the agreement before you tonight is for Mike Podlek, who will be the conjunctive use plan consultant, but he's also a kind of guide for us and a person who will provide technical assistance for the water availability assessment. He kind of holds that institutional knowledge. He's been with this project since the start and holds some of that, but he also provides the fisheries perspective to the water availability assessment, and he'll also be helping us with the environmental impact report. So he's kind of I would say he's our key consultant for this project, who is able to tie all those threads together and is able to connect those and make sure our reviews on each of these individual reports all complement each other and make sure that, they all go together. And so essentially the agreement is for $22,000 with Mike Podlek to prepare the conjunctive use plan update and provide support to those other documents. With that, I'll take any question.
Just a quick, I guess, big picture question is, so he's been a key consultant and has a lot of this, organizational, historical knowledge. Where is this all headed? What has to be done as a big picture, just so I understand? Because this is one piece you're saying, but what's really what's the big picture of everything that has to be done in order for us to finally get this moving forward?
Yeah. So I would say the three kind of final pieces are the conjunctive use plan, the environmental review, whatever document that is, whether that's an environmental impact report or a notice of exemption. So that's the second piece. And then the third piece is our water rights changes. So we essentially need to change our place of use on our system so that we can send water all over permanently. And in order to do that, we need to have the CEQA review done. So before they can even consider our water right permit changes, we need to have a completed and certified CEQA document. So those are the three pieces.
Okay, and as a certified CEQA document, is that a full-blown EIR or
it seems that it can be either, but we were contemplating pursuing an EIR in our contract with Rincon.
Okay, because obviously 5 years ago we were shot down, right?
Yeah.
And, with the mitigated negative deck that we tried to go with.
Correct.
And so I guess what I'm struggling with here is, are we going to have to spend $500,000 to get a complete EIR done and really answer all the questions that the city of Santa Cruz and the marine fisheries folks and all these people asked? Or is there really now because we can show that we've been using this conjunctive use water for the last 5 years under an emergency basis, that's proof enough? I mean, what's the strategy for the big picture, I guess, is?
Yeah, essentially talking about the CEQA review is what you're honing in on. As I said, I've talked to Rincon. Our contract with them was $130,000 for the EIR originally.
Okay.
So just, ballpark of what it might cost. Obviously, it's been a few years.
Right.
But they've also floated that there's a potential that we might not need to do a full-blown EIR if the components fit within exemptions. Now, I'm not sure that they are, but there's a possibility that we would not need to go through the full EIR process. If we were going to do an exemption, we would still probably look into each of the categories and make sure that we're covering all our bases, but it wouldn't be the full-blown EIR process, which is very lengthy, very structured, and costly.
Thank you. I'm crossing my fingers here. Alina?
It sounded like, did you have something to follow up?
I do, but go
Well,
ahead.
if
Well,
you're
no,
on
no,
the
no.
same topic, go ahead, because I feel like I'm gonna change
Well,
the
I
topic.
have.
okay.
I'm going
no.
to change it all.
Okay.
Go.
Can I go then?
Go with that, yeah,
Stuff on this.
because I'm very confused about how this works. So I appreciate any.
Sure. So I guess along these lines, I think we would, as a decision-making body, benefit from a roadmap and a cast of characters so that we have a sense of what is the arc for completion of it. And there's, we've got these different products. How do they tie together? What's the timeline anticipated for them? And then who are the service providers? Like, if we need a team and we're populating the team with one player, who are the other players? What's the overall strategy? What's the anticipated budget? That kind of stuff could be helpful so that we're not piecemealing things.
Yeah.
All that said, I appreciate why Mike Podlek would be the key player. And if I had a better sports metaphor, I'd put that person in a position of significance. Yeah, I don't know, but he's certainly a knowledge base. And my understanding is that the hang up from environmental review with regard to conjunctive use is largely based on fisheries impacts. That the only reason anyone really cares about what we do with the water around here is because of the fisheries issues. So long as we're not messing with Loch Lomond.
The city also had significant comment beyond just the fisheries aspect. So.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and then that gets to my other recommendation, which ties into the question of, is it a foregone conclusion that an EIR is the only method of compliance with CEQA? I would like to think it's not. My understanding is that the city of Santa Cruz had some tactical considerations in their lengthy objection to our prior process. And I don't know why they chose to do that. Maybe they have substantial concerns. Maybe their concerns have all been addressed, perhaps by not contemplating the Loch Lomond, perhaps by other changes in how we do things. And what I would encourage you to do is to consider forming an advisory team made up of representatives from each entity that submitted comments on the IMD last time, and just start convening a kind of bottom-up advisory thing, so that all, because if their concerns can be addressed in the planning, then we might save hundreds of thousands of dollars in a couple of years.
I hadn't thought about that, but my thought was to go out to these entities, maybe individually, but to go out to them. But I think having the revised project description is essential. We spent 8 or 10 months 4 years ago to get to the project description with Rincon leading it, because in the EIS that we did initially, it was vague in spots. Well, maybe we want to consider transfers of water to Scotts Valley as part of our conjunctive use, and maybe we want to do some other aspects. And from my previous work on doing things like this, you nail down a project description as close as you can to exactly what you're going to do. The city looked at that and assumes worst case.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
They assumed worst case and said, stop. And submitted, it was a 12 or 20 page document to us. with all of their objections to it. Because if we pull too much water out of the river,
They can't.
they are then impacted by high nitrate loads at their treatment plant. So, okay.
And they pull river water out to put into Loch Lomond. That's where it comes from. Right? Yeah.
I'm not certain on that, but any upstream flows that we were taking, they were concerned about that.
Yep.
So I think that, and the relationship that we had with the city of Santa Cruz at the time was very much in a head-butting with them. In this aspect over that EIS, just tipped it over they could have had discussions with us ahead of time. Instead, they went out, they got an attorney and filed this lengthy comments.
Right.
That said,
So my advisory
Mhm.
committee thing, the theory behind that is that this is a long arc process.
Right.
A committee
Right.
that meets quarterly or something like that gets to weigh in a few different
Yes.
times and tell you what they're thinking and
right,
then steer towards a good project description, and then the preparation of a document that they can then maybe even review before it goes out to public comment, and when it comes to comment, there are no surprises.
right. So we have a project description 2020 version that Rincon and staff and the board had comments on, with several iterations of review to get to okay, this is what we think the project is. My recommendation would be, I don't think we necessarily need Rincon to do just an initial cut on that project description. We know how we want to use the water sources. They put a reasonable framework around it, and it did include Loch Lomond. Well, okay, we're not going to use, okay, take Loch Lomond out of the description, but my recommendation to follow up on Brian's was have us work with it, come up with a revised project description, and then begin to have discussions at the highest level that you can with the city. And the other one I saw was Fish and Wildlife. Those were the two I thought that were the most significant. Yeah, there were a couple of others, but those two had the most significant comments. Go back to both of them and say, if we did this under a revised EIS negative declaration, would you most likely find it acceptable? They're not, I don't think they're going to come back and say, oh yes, completely a thumbs up. But I would hope that they would say absolutely not if that's what they were thinking. And then we have some basis to make a decision rather than, well, we're headed back down, we're still headed down the EIR path. And based on what Rincon is telling us, maybe we don't have to go there. I would hope we don't. Yeah. And I don't think this is time critical. I'd rather spend the time up front to get to what we think is the right approach. And Brian's point of having a list of players and who's doing what and what the costs are for all of these different players and kind of how this all fits together, would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because we tried to submit in 2021 for the conjunctive use. We had it kicked back at the end of 21 with all the 2022, we spent time developing that. And so far we've sat until then because we can still transfer water north and south because we're still under the emergency conditions. And unless you put all of those pipes back in place, Garrett, for all of this, we're still under the emergency condition. So
since we were having a little back and forth there, I would just thumbs up what Marcus said, I would encourage you to loop in NOAA Fisheries early also.
And so is what I'm hearing from both of you, Brian and Mark, is that should we still move forward with Mike Podlech? Yeah.
Sure.
Can I comment on that, please?
Okay.
I think another big thing that they had issues with, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, it's getting a little late, is that we were averaging our monthly flows and it was missing the pulse flows for the fisheries, that could get through. That was a big concern, correct?
I don't remember particularly.
Okay, I know, I was trying to find the, in my stuff, it's getting late and I just want to make sure I'm quoting, well, there was an issue, because I remember talking to Chris, Berry about it, about how we were averaging our flows. So regarding this conjunctive use bid, and this is a non-competitive bid, I'd really like to suggest that we take this opportunity to explore other consultant options. Just kind of based on what I've seen, I just have some concerns with the current consultants' work quality, and maybe we be served better by bringing someone else on. And that is how I feel about that.
And specifically another consultant related to the proposal that we have in front of us tonight.
Yes, with the
Okay.
proposal. I know that it does have a lot of history with our district. I just think that we possibly could be better served with a different consultant.
So you'd like to see a competitive bid?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my thought, before we even get to any kind of a competitive bid, I want to see the list of players and kind of the strategy of this overall that Brian's alluding to, and kind of lay out this, because as Bob is saying, I'm kind of confused by what we're, and I am.
How does this all work? Yeah.
And I lived through all of these discussions 5 years ago. And I've gone back in my review of this, and I looked at both Podlech and Rincon issued something that said conjunctive use plan in their titles. It looked to me like they were overlapping because they both came out July 2021 in these previous ones. I was confused as to, well, why are we having Podlech do what I would have thought Rincon is doing at the time? Because Rincon is, my view is, has the more master document, and that's the EIR that's got to have all of these. So
if
I would say that that is not how I view it.
Okay.
In my view, you write the plan and the plan describes what your project is, and then the EIR analyzes what those projects' effects will be. Is kind of how I view it.
But isn't that the project description?
That is a project description, but a project description is, I don't remember how long that is, like a page, whereas like
No.
use plan is.
In the EI, what we had developed for the EIR, that was lengthy to a point of 6-8 pages. It wasn't a brief project description. We wanted it extensive enough that everybody could see what our plan was. So given that, I'm confused as to why would we do that and do almost what I thought was the same thing in the EIR then with Rincon.
So if I could, so
Sure.
I'm taking what you said about competitive bid to heart, and so full disclosure, I don't know if this is a conflict of interest. Mike Podlech is currently a subcontractor to a prime contractor that is under contract to my organization. So he works indirectly.
Do you benefit from it
today? He's helping me get my project done. So
you benefit from it personally. But I'm not an attorney.
No.
We do have an attorney.
So I don't think that's a conflict of
I
interest.
wouldn't
I
think
think
so
that's
either.
a professional relationship. I'm not trying to help him get his
Right.
job done, get more
Right.
work,
Yes, yes.
but I just wanted to make that transparent.
Because I've recommended consultants to the district that have done very good work for me in the past. The district has solicited proposals from them, has done work, some of them, so.
So,
So what my main point is that I think that framing the project, working towards a project description is a major undertaking that we need to do.
Mhm.
Mapping the process is also a significant undertaking.
Mhm.
In my expectation is that Mike Podlek as a contractor would be a very valuable asset to accomplish those outcomes.
Okay.
And I think that's what you were getting at, and that's what his scope looks like to me, is that he would advise on the production of various incremental products, but without doing the heavy lifting that I do think Rincon or some other EIR
Yeah.
mitigated CEQA specialist will need to do to actually put the document together. And that will be the $125,000 or
Yes.
whatever escalated cost we face
Right.
for that document. But he may be a good person to get on board to advise staff in mapping this stuff out,
Right.
and highlighting some of the key technical details that will need to be addressed. And the reason I'm suggesting that is that he's very seasoned and knows the biology, but also the regulatory process.
Yeah, process is what
pretty
I'm
well
interested in getting.
in my house. So that's what I was about to say when I heard you express concerns about quality work, and I have not had those problems. I think we should understand that risk, and yet I don't know what the in the context of the whole arc of this, his role in dollar terms is relatively small. I think we're going to be working through a lot of cost burden in the future, and anyway.
So Brian, if I can ask a follow-up question to sort of, again, try to understand your perception of the big picture.
Yep.
So you've advised us or advised Chris to put together a list of the process, the players, the pieces, and how they all go together, just so that we can all look at that.
And when I said that, I was envisioning those being some of the first steps that he would take with Podlek under contract.
And that was
that's what I was.
That's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and then this piece about what is our revised project description, right? Because both, what's the big picture, all these pieces, what's the project description that eventually gets fed into an EIR if we have to go that route? Is that also something that Mike Podlek would be working on? Or within this contract, or
he would be a robust advisor on taking the old project description and figuring out what should stay and what should change.
Okay. Do you see, Chris, is that something? It wasn't clear to me when I read the contract description that that's what he would be doing, but is that?
That is a portion of what is proposed in his in the agreement. The other portion is preparing the conjunctive use plan.
Okay. Yeah, because he had a lot of little pieces.
I'm not reading his proposal, or I'm not interpreting his proposal that way. I think it was, and I assume I'm going to need to support the water assessment. So when you get ready to do that, and I assume that I'm going to support this. I would be okay with, if you think Podlek would be a good advisor on this overall strategy, that he could work with staff and come back to the board with something. Go get his services for that, not the proposal that's in front of us right now. Hold on that, but show us, and if that's $5,000 to enlist his services, you got the authority to do that. But help us have an understanding of what the overall process is and what the overall budget is likely to be for all of this, and then bring that to us. It's my thought on this.
I guess I'm just getting worried here that it's.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe I'm being too polite. I don't think that Pike Podlick would be a good advisor for this. I think that he has led us astray on the Fall Creek fish ladder with the presence of lamprey, and he highly argued that no lamprey were in the system. There are lamprey, we found them. He also advised us that there was no lamprey because they didn't get any on the electrofishing. But when you electrofish for steelhead, it's a different setting than when you electrofish for lamprey. And then I have significant concerns when I read, it's been a really long time, so I'd have to go back and reread it, but he wrote the section of the conjunction review for the fisheries. There was significant things that he called out in that the citations didn't match up, and he kind of was trying to say things without a good citation. Apparently, Noah also called him out on those.
Right.
So I do have concerns that maybe that this kind of got all hung up with Santa Cruz. And I did finally pull up their letter and kind of looking at a lot of it had to do with the flows and how the flows affect fisheries. And I think that Mike Podlick was missing the kind of overall picture of how the flows affect all the life cycles of the fish and what Santa Cruz was pointing out. And I feel like if we do this again, we might just end up with the same result. And that is my worry.
And I don't have an opinion one way or another on Podlick on getting somebody as a coordinator to assist us in the process and to assist staff in bringing something back to the board that's a more cohesive. Here's the framework for this. Here's how this works. Here's who's going to do what. Here's what the costs are. And here's what happens first, third, and fifth in the process. Whether that's a Podlick, I don't know. Whether it's somebody else that you know of out there, but go find that if you think that's necessary to get this roadmap that that Brian's describing, that I'm encouraging, before you come back with any of the proposals.
All right, boy.
So
I guess I was just going to say, I'm just worried that we're sort of throwing monkey wrenches into this whole process. But the concerns that you, for instance, have raised, Alina, you've been there and you've read these pretty thoroughly. I guess I'll just ask the general question: if we don't go forward with Mike Podlick at this point, and we step back and try to address some of the issues that Brian had suggested, including an advisory committee, what does this do to us just moving forward on coming up, actually being able to move forward with the conjunctive use plan? Are we, adding months? I mean,
I don't think it adds significant time. Like say Jason has something that.
I think this is a good opportunity to use the QBS system that we talked about and go out and find that consultant with the special skills.
Okay.
Allow our environmental team to assess
it,
and get them under contract to advise us.
Right.
But the RFP will take a month. Getting the bids will take a month. So we're looking at least probably 3 months.
If it's less than 30,000, we don't need to see it.
Yeah,
Jason could have approved this contract.
I can approve it.
He could approve it.
Right.
But
yeah,
a number of us here would not have been comfortable having this contract approved. But if you were able to get somebody on board to do this strategic roadmap and assessment and costs and the rest of that, and we're able to put that together, I don't think we need to be involved in selecting an advisor.
No,
if that's
I would sure like to see the roadmap. I just don't understand how this process works.
Right. Yeah.
And if an advisor can help Chris,
right.
put all these pieces together and present it, that'd be fantastic. Well, any other comments if we were to throw this back at the general manager and staff? Brian, do you have any?
No, I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay. Alina, anything else you'd
No.
like to add? And Mark, you're.
Nope, I
you're
think
good?
we
Okay,
beat this one enough
yeah,
already.
we have.
Okay.
And next, anybody with their
No,
hand raised?
no.
Okay,
They're all in bed.
okay, yeah. Oh, my
Night,
goodness, 9 o'clock. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All right, we're getting late, guys. All right. Okay, so we move on to AP listings, right? All right, Sherry, you're up again.
So this is the accounts payable listing for November 14th, 2025 through June 5th, 2026. Previously, the AP listing was presented quarterly to the board. I'm not used to presenting this to a board or a council, so it was kind of out of sight, out of mind for me. I apologize, but moving forward, I plan to bring it either monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly, whatever you want. I'm planning monthly though.
Monthly would be great. This was a lot to go through.
I'm sure it was.
It was. It's like, whoa, this thing never ends. Okay,
You read it line by line?
I did.
Wow.
Well, I
Very
scanned it for
proud.
some stuff. I did have just some very quick questions that you don't have to answer now, but if you could get back to me on them,
Absolutely.
just because I wasn't sure what they were for. Let's see. We are paying, I guess, State Water Resources Control Board almost 18,000 a year. Is that just because they're the government and this is what they can? I mean, are we
Because-
getting
That's
anything
because
for it?
they hold our permit. That's what they charge. us.
So that's just the cost of keeping the permit.
Yeah.
Cost of doing business.
Yep.
So cost of doing business, okay, that answers that one. And then the annual renewal for Springbok IRV 11,000, I just don't even know what that is.
That is our financial system, Springbrook.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then we pay a 10,000 as a California special district. And that's again, just because we're a special district.
I believe that covers our membership.
It is,
It's like an annual membership,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
So we get
Training.
we, along with all the other special districts, belong to this organization, and there's trainings and boards and everything.
And we've gone out to them for input when we have questions on larger
They're a
aspects.
great
Okay,
resource.
so they're a good resource.
Yes,
Okay.
they have been.
All right, good, great. And then I guess Monterey Bay Air generator permits,
Mhm.
this is just again, the privilege of if
Yeah.
we need to
you want
use
to
a
run your
generator,
generator, you gotta have a permit.
gotta have a permit right, for operating.
Gotta have a permit for him.
Okay. And then just remind me, we had, I guess we paid Watsonville Ford 73,000 twice for 2 trucks, is that correct? I just don't remember the 2 trucks, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, and then Civic Pay 2,300 is,
Civic Pay is our credit card processor
oh,
And our website.
and the website, yeah.
And
That's
we'll-
Civic Plus, right?
Well,
that's Civic Plus, that's
yeah,
right.
Civic Pay is how they pay their bills
That's right.
through, yeah.
okay, all right, thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Civic Plus will come up in a second.
Okay. All right, any other director have any comments or questions on the AP?
I do.
Okay.
I see in the period reported that we've used Miller Maxfield to the tune of a little over 21,000. Is our work with them on a?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's done.
Yeah, they're using up what's left of their contract.
okay. Do we need them to use up what's left of their contract?
We have reached out to them for information that they have generated in the past that we now possess.
Okay.
So they've charged us to retrieve that information.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna expend their contract and
I'm hoping we're
right,
in the.
and then
Won't tell him.
are we likely to re-engage them?
No.
Yay, thank you. Okay,
Okay.
not that they've done reasonable work for us, in particular when we didn't have the
Mhm.
the level of qualified staff that we do now. But now that we do, yes, I'm glad to hear that we're able to. Thank you.
They've done some good things. They've done some things that I questioned, but they've done some good things.
Yeah, right. Agreed.
Okay. Any other comments on AP?
I've
Nope.
just
Oh,
moved a question.
okay. Do we have to, I guess, make
Yeah,
a motion
I
to
would-
approve it, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, public comment.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment. Thank you.
No.
We don't have hundreds of people
I
waiting.
think nobody in line.
No one in line. Okay.
I move to approve the accounts payable list for the period of 11/14/2025 to 6/5/2026.
I'll second.
Okay, President Russ,
Yes.
Vice President Lang,
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Smalley.
Yes.
All right, passes. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and let's see, consent agenda, the board minutes, or any changes about the past minutes from 6/4/26? Changes, okay. And just,
Yes. Right.
Unanimous.
yes, unanimous consent, thank you. And then district reports, the financial status report for April. Any comments or questions about that?
I do have one comment. I note in there, professional services through this point, 26. 655,000 through 2025. 1.2 million. Good. As long as we're not at a point of, oh, well, a big part of that 500,000 plus was the major engineering contract for the tanks that we didn't need. And
But I believe most of that is in that administration.
it sounds like, okay, yes, good. Thank you. Good job. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I will assume unanimous consent unless someone would like to differ. Okay. So I think we're all good there. No written communications, no informational material.
Comment.
I'm sorry?
We have to ask for public
Public,
comment.
good. Well, let's do it. Any public comment on the financial status report for April?
No.
No.
Thank you. Okay, no written communication or informational, so guess I will
No,
Wait, yeah.
no, we gotta reconvene for 10 minutes.
But let me ask
But
the
can't
rest, the
okay.
rest of the board. Are we gonna go back in there? Or are we gonna, I see no.
I don't wanna talk anymore now that
I
it's gone
see
so
no.
late, but I didn't know if we just like,
We're having a party in there. What do you say?
We're-
just like a
We,
10-minute,
we agree that the closed session is concluded.
okay,
I agree.
okay.
Okay, and there was no,
No actionable item
right,
Okay.
from the closed session.
session taken.
No action. Okay.
No.
We good, Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay,
You still awake?
like
Okay.
it's 9, I'm gonna go back in there.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm sure everyone's too tired, but if anyone, I have a video of lamprey spawning at the base of the Fall Creek Fish Ladder.
Oh,
that I
my